أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. First of all, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because He has enabled us again to meet here for the third time to discuss important topics from Risalah An Nur. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening, welcome you to the third session. And this seminar is brought to you by Khairat Foundation, Turkey. In these seminars, we discuss various topics from his Risalah An Nur, which is a body of Quranic commentary. We join in this seminar in order to enhance our Iman and Amal. From this seminar, we hope to gain a comprehensive understanding of Islam in the light of Risalah An Nur. I, Muhammad Abdul Latif, the Deputy Director of the World Debate and Oratory Center at the International Islamic University, Malaysia, will be your moderator for tonight. To those who have joined us from different parts of the world, we welcome you all to this evening's session. We hope and pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts our devotion this evening as an act of ibadah. Our guest speaker, Mr. Yusuf Kara, is from Turkey, and Mr. Yusuf Kara is the representative of Khairat Foundation to Malaysia. He is also the manager of Nursi Research and Training Center at the International Islamic University, Malaysia. We have introduced him in every other session, but since there are many new participants, I'll introduce him again. Mr. Yusuf Kara studied English literature from Ataturk University and obtained his master's degree in international relations from Medeniyat University. He has obtained a second master's in Usuluddin and comparative religion from the International Islamic University, Malaysia. Since we are running a little late today, we apologize to you for the delay. And without any further ado, may I invite Mr. Yusuf Kara to speak. Mr. Yusuf Kara, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Brother Abdul Latif. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Salam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب على رسولنا محمد صلوات اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. It's a great honor to be once again with our distinguished community from Bangladesh, and alhamdulillah, inshallah, today we will be talking about another very important topic, that is integration of Quran and science in the perspective of Badiuzzaman Said Nursi, and how to understand that every science talks about Allah in its particular language. So inshallah, let me start by sharing my screen, my presentation. Okay, so we are talking about Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi and Risalah An Nur. Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi, as we have mentioned about him in the first session, he is a scholar who lived just in the previous century. He was born in 1877 and died in 1960. He witnessed the last time of Ottoman, the collapse of Ottoman, and the establishment of the new Turkish Republic. And then he witnessed the collapse of, we can say, Islam as a whole, to be at, backward to a certain extent in so many regards, isn't it? In educational, social, cultural, military, in so many aspects. Unfortunately, Muslims and Muslim countries, we had been losing, until that time. But then, with the collapse of Ottoman, world walls and everything, made the Muslim countries more, to lose on more fronts, we can say. So he was a person who witnessed that loss of the Muslim world in so many fields, and he came up with a ways of to solve this problem and to move out of this problem. And and he wrote the Risalah An Nur. That is about 6, 7, 8,000 pages of and more than 10 volumes. And this is written on the basis of integration of heart and mind, on the basis of integration of Quran and social sciences and natural sciences. So Risalah An Nur and Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi, who not only excelled in the Islamic studies, but also excelled in social and natural sciences studies. So, and when he wrote this book, he didn't write it, only to shape the lives of Muslims from, advices and commandments of Allah and the Hadith. Not only that, but also he read the universe. He read the universe. He read the Quran. He read the universe. He read the life of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and he made a tafsir of all these three. What we said in the beginning and on the first week, we said there are 3 books introducing Allah to us. One is Quran, one is Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and one is the universe. That is the book of universe, as Imam Badiuzzaman calls it, the book of universe. So he made an interpretation and tafsir of these 3 books, and this is what makes and what composes the Risalah An Nur of. So Risalah An Nur consists of integration, interpretation of these 3 books that introduce Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us. And Badiuzzaman Said Nursi comes with, inshallah, next week or on our next session, maybe after Eid, we will also discuss about the life of Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi and the methodology of his approach. So inshallah, we will understand more and more. So today, inshallah, we are going to discuss about the integration, a particular part in the Risalah An Nur. We should say a lot of things actually. A lot of things are established on this approach. Okay, I want to, in the very beginning, I want to share why there should be such an integration, and that will look a little bit unexplained now. But as we go and as we explain throughout the pages, inshallah, of the slides, we will understand better. And at the end, we will once again come back to the objectives of integration, and we will understand how indeed we need to have these objectives. I mean, we need to have this integration. We will understand it better, inshallah. Okay, number 1, to make Muslims know and love Allah. Do we have this problem of knowing Allah and loving Allah? Yes, of course, it is insufficient. So the integration will enable us to do so. Making Muslims practice Islam better, integration will enable us to do so. It will enlighten Muslims on Iman-related issues and thus provide them with true bliss in this world. So we are looking for bliss and happiness in this world, isn't it? So this integration will also allow us to do that, to attain this happiness through understanding and indulging in the issues related to Iman through integration. To save Muslims from atheism and eliminate their doubts on Iman. Again, integration will enable us to do so. To feed the hearts while feeding the minds, integration will enable us to do so. To motivate Muslim students to study sciences. Again, Muslim students, there are 2 ways. Well, I'm studying this to get a job, or I'm studying this to learn about Allah. There are 2 ways. If you want to learn about Allah, you have to go to madrasa. You have to take Islamic studies, traditional Islamic studies only. If you want to get an academic skill and get some, academic information and get a good job, then you have to go here. So there is a disintegration. So Imam Badiuzzaman integrates it. And this also motivates the students and improves the students to have both skills. Okay. And to combat atheism globally. And we don't have a reactionary stance in this integration. This is not a reactionary. It's not, no. Oh, the science improved so much, so we have to do something. We have to integrate it with Islam. So science should not be separate from Islam. We should integrate it. This is a reactionary approach. What Imam Badiuzzaman doing is not a reactionary approach. It is the approach of the Quran itself. It is the approach of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala itself, that Quran reads the universe, right? It's not just commandments of Allah, it is the, it is the a book on the universe also. So Quran is telling us to read about the universe. So this is another reactionary, this is something that belongs to Islam and belongs to Quran. This is not, a reactionary approach. So rather, science is the study of Allah's creation. So each science book is actually a tafsir, literally a tafsir of the creation of Allah. The creation of Allah is a book of Allah, right? On one side, and each science book is supposed to be, the only problem is the discourse, the language, the philosophy of education. The only problem is that, right? Science books, all science books is actually meant to be, supposed to be by nature, a tafsir, literally a tafsir of the book of Allah, the book of creation. And on the other side, we have the Quran, and all the books that are written to expound on the ayat of the Quran are also known as the tafsir. So there are two books of Allah, and books written on those books, they are called tafsir, interpretation. So actually, when we look from this perspective, every science book is a tafsir book. We just need to have the right perspective at it and the right methodology, so that it will indeed serve as a tafsir book that will make the students close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that will make the students to know about Allah through the verses of Allah in the Quran, in the universe, and love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through knowing about Him. Because when we know about Him, we love Him. Okay. All right, so now an overview of the Quran. Okay, we told about, about this, which is Quran has two main contents. One is Iman and one is good deeds. So, Innal ladhina amanu wa amilu salihati. Quran talks about two things. These are the two objectives, fundamental objectives of Quran. Quran trains a society that has strong Iman and strong good deeds. And then Quran has four main themes. Okay, Tawheed, Nubuwah, Hashr, Ibadah, and Justice, according to Badiuzzaman Said Nursi. And when we look at the ayat of the Quran, 3/4 of the Quran talks about Iman. And then when we come to the ayat revealed in Mecca and Medina, we see that the ayat of Mecca talks about Iman in majority, and the ayat revealed in the time of Medina in majority talks about Ahkam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first improves the Iman of a community, and after that builds the Ahkam, builds the commandments and prohibitions. So likewise, Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi says, now in this very century, we are living in the time of Mecca, not in the time of Medina. We are living in the time of Mecca, and we need to focus on Iman, just like Allah focused on Iman. If we have to say as a methodology, Allah followed, a certain, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates, when He wants to create, He just be and it becomes. But even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He was changing the attitudes of people, the alcohol, isn't it? So numerous ayat coming gradually. Everything is coming gradually because we are human beings, we are addressed. So we have to follow the methodology of the Quran itself, isn't it? Not just the information, knowledge in the Quran, but also the methodology of the Quran. So the methodology of the Quran tells us that if we are in the time of Mecca, which we are, according to Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi, why? Because we have now lost a lot of things. We have lost our identities. We have lost our Iman. Our Iman is weak. Our Amal is weak. Our understanding of Islam, our knowledge of Islam is weak. And then we are very much living like, the followers of other religions, of other cultures, right? Or other cultures. We are speaking like others. We are doing like others. And then in education, in science, in everything, we are still, unfortunately, very much backward. So this is why we are kind of starting. We regressed. We had flourished, we had developed, but then we regressed, unfortunately. So we are now back in the time of Mecca. So we have to build from the Iman, from the foundation. All right. Okay. All natural sciences. Okay, now let's go into this science itself. So this was an introduction until now. So now, you know what we will do? What we said, we have to start with Iman. This is a very, very important, thing to decide what we should start with. For example, this is a shirt. You know, when I'm wearing this shirt, if I start, with the wrong one, match the wrong one, if I start wrongly, and the rest will always go wrongly, isn't it? Even though I do best, I do perfect matching of each other of the rest, it will always go wrong. So the start is very important. So what do we start with? What is the problem? What has to be done? First, we have to decide on this, which we call as planning, isn't it? So we have to first plan something, then we implement it. So Imam Badiuzzaman says the biggest problem today is the lack and weakness of Iman. The biggest problem is that we don't have the benefits and effects of Iman on us. We are far from Iman. Iman is not just yes or no question. It is not, okay, I believe, no, I don't believe. It's not that. Unfortunately, we have a very shallow understanding of Iman. This is the problem. And everything starts with Iman. It is because we believe that we are Muslims. Alhamdulillah, we are praying, Alhamdulillah, and then we are mu'min, we are believers. Then all is fine. No. We are confronted by so many contemporary challenges. And every confrontation has a solution in the Quran. And the Quran, the basic of Quran is Iman, and secondly is Amal. So what is the solution of Islam, in the face of those challenges, from the point of view of Iman itself? So Iman will solve a lot of problems today, a lot of problems. Just like Iman was the first motive for the first Muslims, right? For them to establish the great Islamic state, and for them to be the companions, for them to be called as the Sahaba, the Ashab radiyallahu anhum ajma'in. So that what made them so strong was their Iman, was their submissiveness to Allah, etc. So as we go forward, inshallah, we'll understand better, I hope, inshallah. All natural sciences, okay, we're talking about Iman, and Iman means again the philosophy. When we lose on the philosophy of something, we are losing the track, isn't it? So unfortunately, we lose the right philosophy of Islam and the right Iman through what we are taught. For example, in science today, which is based on we shall not say, it is atheism actually, but they don't say there is no God. But they don't talk about God, which means there is no God. And when they tell anything, when they explain anything naturally, they always, all the references is the causes themselves, the natural laws, cause and effect relationship, right? Or on its own, coincidence. So these are all the explanations and references, right? So there is no reference to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, unfortunately. And this is actually decreasing and damaging the mentality, the Iman, the understanding of Muslims. So all natural sciences describe the events that take place in their field within the framework of cause and effect relationship. And I can't see here. Okay, and natural laws. All right. Isn't it? They all explain cause and effect and natural laws. Okay. For example, according to physics, why does the speed of a free-falling object not accelerate continuously, but remain at a constant speed? Why? And then, according to electrical science, why does a short circuit occur? Why? According to geography and geology, how are mountains formed? Okay, so these are the questions that are asked by them. Did something catch your attention? According to science, how do the above events happen? With what effect and strength do they? Because of these things, I can't see everything. I don't know how to move this popping up. Okay, how do they happen? Okay, it was formed as a result of friction with air. It happened due to the influence of the law of gravity. It was formed as a result of electrons completing the circuit in a non-resistive way. It happened by itself and by its nature. It was formed by coincidence. It was formed as a result of continental movements. See, the movements are doing it, as if the movements are the agents. And then it was formed in accordance with the laws of nature. There's no God in those explanations. It is indeed the causes that makes all effects in the nature. Logically, something that is blind and deaf, unconscious, intelligent, unintelligent, non-hearing, and non-living cannot have the power of creating and making. In order to be able to do, create, invent, affect dozens of abilities, such as knowing, seeing, hearing, power, consciousness, willingness, craftsmanship, and mastery, they are required. Because we see a work of art. Any tree, any scene in this world, oceans, mountains, it's all work of art. It requires craftsmanship. It requires consciousness. It requires all these talents. For example, everything is a work of mercy. It requires the agent to be a merciful agent. Is the continental movement merciful? Is the sun merciful to give us rain? Is the ocean and the clouds, they are merciful to give us rain? Because rain is so Badiuzzaman looks at he names the actions. He names the actions. This is an action of mercy. Can you see? Action of mercy. They explain the rain, they never talk about mercy of the agents. Their mercy over the human beings and over the animals and plants and soil. They never talk about the mercy and care and hearing of the calls of those beings, etc. No. For example, in the water cycle, as we just said, right? So there is no what? You know, they just tell us, you know, there's this water cycle because of sun evaporates, because of it enters into the clouds, it accelerates because of the, you know, because it is light, it ascends, and then it mounts onto the clouds, and because of wind it moves here and there, because of humid it comes down, because of gravity it falls down, because of gravity again it falls back into the river, and this is the water cycle. There is no Allah mentioned here. You see, this is subconsciously forming the minds of people. Everything takes place through cause and effect relationship. And even then, the people, when they're living, they say, wow, now I have to lie. If I don't lie, I cannot save myself. Why? Because cause and effect. But there is the causer of causes. The causes are never useful, but that person has been, the minds have been formed by cause. Money is a cause. An employer is a cause. So the employer tells you to do haram. I have to do. That is the cause of money. What else can I do? So the mind has been formed with cause and effect in this way. If it was formed with Allah, everything with Allah, the causes are useless. They are useless. If they have any effect, it is the effect that was given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that effect is not always. It is stopped. You see, humid is there, but no rain is coming. It is not just the miracle of prophets that are taking place. I mean, so many things are there, but they never happen. Subhanallah. So we have to see the causer of causes. Musabbibul asbab. As Badiuzzaman calls it, Musabbibul asbab, the causer of causes. So when we talk about the causer of causes in our classes, then the mentality of the student will be shaped in that regard. So science talks about how, it doesn't talk about why. Because the Creator is merciful, He's doing that way. Because the Creator loves you, He's doing that way. It never talks about that. So it shapes the minds, unfortunately. It's like an infusion. You know, if a good person is said to be bad, that person starts to deteriorate. This is a truth. And when we are always told, you know, about that language of science, and we are formed even though we are Muslims. If a bad person is said to be bad, that person starts to get better. This is what Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi says. So what is the point to be reached at the end of an approximately 15 years of infusion and suggestion of there is no God? Everything is through cause and effect and natural laws. An awesome difference between ashab and us The companions of Prophet Muhammad were always busy with Quran and Hadith, and we are busy with natural science without a conscious reference to Allah for more than 10 years. Every science bears witness to the existence, oneness, and many names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in its particular language. Every science. Okay. So we have to consider the knowledge shared by natural sciences, not from cause and effect relationship point of view, but in order to know about Allah, who created everything. Okay. And that's when we will learn all science with pleasure, and the information we will learn will help us to know and love our Lord. Okay. So when we learn about that rain, for example, from the point of view of the Creator, the teacher will explain first technical explanation. Oh, because of this, and because of this. That is the technical explanation. That is true. And then he will say, that is this. These are the causes that was laid down by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah is Rahim. Normally those causes, they don't hear you. They don't see you. They don't care about you. They don't have mercy upon you. They don't have the power of doing so. Even though they had, if, for example, let's say like the cloud knows you and sees you, for example. Oh, those people, they need help, they need rain. And then if it doesn't have mercy, would it send it to us? No. Or it doesn't know how to do. A rain doesn't know, it doesn't have consciousness. So when we speak about these perspectives, sorry. So when we look at from this perspective, okay. So when we look from this perspective, the student, will love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will say that the cloud doesn't know us, doesn't hear us, doesn't have mercy upon us. The sun, huge sun, doesn't know you, doesn't see you, doesn't hear you. But at the end, and they don't know each other also, but they are working in such a system that they are giving you something what you need most. And the rain is not too much and too less than you need. It comes as much as you need, and it falls down in such a diameter that it doesn't harm you. It gently touches on your head, and it just relieves you. And subhanallah, it doesn't come down in the form of a flood, etc. So then all of these things are taking place by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is qadir over everything, who is powerful over all these things. The sun is just a small lamp in its entire cosmos, a small lamp only. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves human beings, has mercy upon human beings, and He is just mobilizing these things for human beings. So this kind of explanation, will turn what we learn from the science books, and that information enters into our mind in the form of knowledge and information. But that information will be converted into nur of heart. It is an information in the mind, and this is causing even, people become, proud, or they know so much, they become professors, isn't it? We become professors, and then we become sometimes very egoistic, and when, proud and conceited. But then when, we look teach from these perspectives, and then it will turn into nur in the heart, right? So everything we learn will serve to be for ma'rifatullah and muhabbatullah, knowing Allah, because we see the examples of the mercy of Allah. We see nothing but the examples of the power and hikmah, and knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything we learn will automatically turn into nur in the heart, and that will have its consequences in our life. Again, limit speed, in the physics is a mercy of Allah. It just limits, the speed is limited. It doesn't come further, at a further speed. It stops at a certain speed. This is the mercy of Allah. Otherwise, it would dig into our head. So many other examples. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَجَعَلَ الْقَمَرَ فِيهِنَّ نُورًا وَجَعَلَ الشَّمْسَ سِرَاجًا. And He has made the moon a light therein, and made the sun a lamp. You see the language of the Quran? Allah talks about science. This is a science, and many other things. right? And he made them, the language that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses here, such a language. He doesn't say light is a, moon is a light for you, sun is a lamp for you, etc. Allah says He has made, Allah has made. So the reference is made to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to use the same language. That is the integration. We are teaching the science, but the reference is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And أَلَمْ نَجْعَلِ الْأَرْضَ مِهَادًا وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا. Have we not made the earth a resting place and the mountains as states? So again, these are examples from the Quran that are the reference from the universe, from the nature, is made to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that we love Allah. Ya Allah, indeed you are the one who made it. The discourse of natural science in the Quran is in the sense that it describes the natural events in order to display the existence, oneness, and greatness of Allah. So Quran does not just explain as an information, it explains in a way that it improves the iman and the knowledge of a person and love of a person on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so the Quran and universe are two books of Allah. Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi has a very historic sentence. The light of the conscience, the light of the conscience, of the heart, is religious sciences. And the nur, the light of the mind, is modern sciences. Because mind looks through the eyes into the world and wants to think. Because this is a factory, it needs something to work, to process. So looking at the universe and seeing and processing is its light, is its food. It is enlightened with that. Right? When someone is reading and studying, that person is really becoming enlightened and can look from different perspectives, etc., etc. And religious, again, our heart should be enlightened with religious sciences. The truth, now the truth, you see, the truth is not just with religious and it's not just with this. The truth, the real truth emerges with the integration of the two. This exact sentence is from Imam Badiuzzaman. The endeavor of the student develops with the presence of both aspects. If they are separated, the first one brings bigotry, the second one wile and suspicion. The first one, when it is only religious sciences, that person will be bigotry, and he will be biased against anything else. The only thing to be learned in the world is Islam only. The other things, they are from West, they are for the world, etc. This is very much insufficient and lacking, perspective.
So Yusuf, could you conclude in 2 minutes?
Sure.
Thanks.
Inshallah. And the other one, the problem is disintegration. Previously in Ottoman, we had, two things. I should say, one institution was actually including three things. It was actually, separated also. Okay, let me say this way. In Ottoman, actually, I should say even early ages like 10th, 11th, 12th century, an Islamic alim was also a scholar of a science, isn't it? Inventor and scholar of a science. At the same time, an alim of an Islamic study. So that was integration. And then in the Ottoman, there was something, the science was, regressed after some time and then focused only on government matters, on, Islamic education, etc. And the science were developing at that time, in Europe. And then in Ottoman, there were what? The madrasa here, that is traditional studies, and then Sufism here, that is on heart, okay? So one is about knowledge, learning, and one is about practicing whatever practicing. So there were also a little bit clashes between them, like one was telling that you don't study much, the other one saying that you study but you have conceit, you have, so many, some bad morals, etc. So they were focusing on moral, they were focusing on knowledge. So that was sort of, unfortunately, separated. And then when Europe introduced its modern schools, now there is a third leg of this separation. And they invite everyone to study and learn and to get a job. And everyone is going there, isn't it? So that one is causing, Imam Badiuzzaman says, suspicion and wile, kufr. Only, when it is modern studies and nothing itself, that only, wile and suspicion. So what Risalah An Nur is doing, the Imam Badiuzzaman is doing, is integrating these three. Integrating the modern school sciences, the madrasa studies, and the Sufi moral studies, Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi is integrating. And this is, the Madrasatul Zahra is his university project that is the integration of these three. He laid down the foundations with the support of the Sultan of his time, but with the outbreak of the First World War, he could not continue and went into the war. But the Risalah An Nur is the textbook of this madrasa, of this university, and all of the madaris, small, places of the Risalah An Nur teaching, or dormitories, and every center, alhamdulillah, is a branch of this university. That is, even this platform, we could be, take it as a branch of this university. So every science talks about Allah in its particular language, pharmacology, everything. For example, I'm finalizing just one example from pharmacology. When we are talking about, medicines, what we are supposed to say? Okay, who makes the medicine? Is it the wind, the wind that is coming into and falling down those jars, and then those small liquids, they are going and merging, coming together, 1 milligram from this one, 2 milligram from this one, and 3 milligram from the other one. They are coming together and they are forming these drugs, and they are being packaged as this is a very ridiculous story, isn't it? So we human beings, animals and plants, we are all mixture of so many materials with so specific amounts. We go to hospital and they do blood tests. They say, wow, you lack this thing a little bit in your body. That's why you have this problem, isn't it? So we are a composure of so many things in exact amounts. So then this medicine needs a pharmacist, a pharmacologist. Then what do we need? Can we be the product of nature, of wind, or whatever? Or are we supposed to be, the animals and plants are supposed to be the products of a pharmacologist of all, that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is powerful over everything, so that he can, form this great body. All right. So mechanics, electrical engineering, so in everything there is in Allah for examples. So finally, Imam Badiuzzaman says, there are 4 steps: Iman billah, faith in Allah; Ma'rifatullah, knowledge. So we are believing in Allah, but we need to know about Allah. And then we will love Allah. And then we will have a spiritual ecstasy towards Allah. And then, when we have spiritual ecstasy towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now you can you can go to the part of acting much easily. So now let's read once again and finalize. Now we can know and love Allah through integration. We can practice Islam better. We can have the bliss in this world, because this is not something that I have focused on much. Actually, this is another discussion. And we can be saved from atheism, secularism, and eliminate the doubts on Iman. We can feed the hearts while feeding the minds, and the Muslims will be motivated to study sciences. We can combat atheism, and we don't have a reactionary stance in this integration. Rather, the science is indeed the study of Allah's creation. So this is the, inshallah, end of my presentation. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Yusuf Kara. Thank you so much again for an enlightening discussion. Indeed, you have drawn a lot from the history and the experience of Turkey, but we all know that is the situation for all the countries in the Muslim world. During colonization and after colonization, the secularization of schools and educational institutions, and Islamic education to be completely separated from the modern education has caused a lot of problems. And I'm not going to repeat what you have said. We thank you once again. And today we have our discussant on the topic, Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal Hussain. He is a professor at the Department of Da'wah and Islamic Studies at Islamic University, Kustia, Bangladesh. He stood first in the same department during his undergraduate and master studies. He did his Master of Philosophy and PhD from the same university. He then went on to the UK to do his postdoctoral in theology at the University College London. And later he went to the United States to do his researches on interfaith. Professor Dr. Iqbal has agreed to be a discussant today, solely because he feels that he is inspired by the works of Ustaz Badiuzzaman Said Nursi. Professor Dr. Iqbal, please proceed with your comments. Please keep it within 5 minutes, maximum 6 minutes, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you, brother Muhammad. And thank you, Yusuf Kara, for your nice presentation. I think that I'm going through to my discussion because I think that I saw there is a huge, my mentors and scholars. I think those are the Bengali speaking, but I think that they're the leading scholar on Islamic point of view. So thanks to all. I think that I'm a student of Islam and always am learning something from anywhere. And then this is one of the source, said Badiuzzaman Nursi. I think the today's topic, that is, every science talks about Allah in its particular language. Very significant, very important sentence. Each and everything talks for really talk based on their own methodology. كما جاء في القرآن وما تشاءون إلا أن يشاء الله رب العالمين. Allah actually designed the way how they will talk each other for the further down for the enhancement. So I think that the topic is really interesting, and as per I clearly discussed and I read out this, and because today's moderator said to me only 5 or 6 minutes how I will explain this is just I thought about the Sayyid Badiuzzaman Nursi. I love him. Why? That's I explained here. Dear audience, respected audience, we have to remember the time when Badiuzzaman Nursi spread out the teaching of Islam, spread out the dawah of Islam. Why he said there is a three guidance of Quran, Sunnah, and the Book of Universe. I think that Book of Universe is a deliberation of the both Quran and Sunnah. That time, the end of the Ottoman Empire and starting the strong nationalism led by Kemal Atatürk, and how he adopted the Islamic Dawah strategy in front of the Turkey nations when the collapse the all Islamic institutions, when they prohibited the all terms and terminologies of Islam, even in Arabic language. But how Buddhism accommodate the and face the situation. This is the real, I think, that the language of Dawa based on time. That's why he says we are now in the time of Makki life. Makki life. That time he said, I think that there is some little bit different in between Yusuf Kara. It's depend on when the Makki life and Madani lives will come in over the nations. It depends on the situation. So that time, really, it was the Makki life. And that's why he created the new methodologies of Islamic Dawah. He sometimes engaged with the government. He sometimes works for the people of that area. And, even he talked with the Christian leaders when the advancement of atheism enforced to the Turkey nations, even the whole Muslim nations. So can you imagine that time all Islamic scholars they are thinking about the only Islamic theology, but said Badiuzzaman Nursi integrated the natural science, the Book of Universe, even with the teaching of the Holy Quran and Sunnah. This is the speciality, and this is the power of his teaching. That's why his teaching influencing history, blowing the light all ages, even nowadays, even I think that in future, if we comparative study with that time with the Islamic movement or Islamic activities that happened in the Egypt or in subcontinent, why we are nowadays gradually fallen. Although the Islamic dawah always we said as like as a color, as like as a water, it will colored by the influence, by the color, by the thinking of the nations, particular nations, of course, with the basic, with the strong basic principles of Islamic ideology. Why we are fallen in the subcontinent and Turkey, in Egypt, but in Turkey, why they will, the advancing day by day. This is the secret key point, the power of the Dawa activities of Sayyid Badiuzzaman Nursi, that he said this is the power, huge power of Iman Billah, this huge power of love and spirit, and adjust with the situation and enhance the capacity. How will enhance further down? We do not be hopeless. We need to getting the power from the philosophy of Islam, that is, say, Yusuf Kara. We need to first of all fix up the philosophy. This is the philosophy of Iman. It was, I think, that has, and of course, it will spread out the light through the teaching of Sayyid Badiuzzaman Nursi, teaching of Sayyid Risalah An Nur. That's why sometimes he collaborate with the British people, with the the Christian people, or with the power of the powerful people of the authority of the Turkey, and sometimes he debate with the British power. They said, when some people, when the British secretary said, if we want to defeat the Muslim nation, we need to scatter out the Muslim with the Quran. Then he said, no, the Quran is an undying sun from the heart of the Muslims. And that's why he wants to spread out this teaching through the age, depend on the situation, and he changes the techniques of dawah based on Quran and Hadith. I think that this is the really uh, contemporary the techniques of dawah of Sayyid Badiuzzaman Nursi, and we need to getting the light from Risalah An Nur. If we teach always, and if we learn always, if we talk each other always about the Risalah An Nur, I think that we'll getting the light for our further down. I think that we'll getting the spirit for Islam, and we'll getting really the final destination to getting the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thank you very much. Thank you to moderator and each and everyone for hearing me. I think I'm asking dua from everyone and pray for everyone for say Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal. I wish we could give you more time to have a more in-depth discussion, but we are running short of time. Dear guests, we understand that we have got many intellectuals, professors, academicians with us tonight. I'm sure many of you will have points to contribute and questions to ask. At least we can spend about 10 minutes to listen to some points and questions. So I may open the floor if I'm allowed. Yeah, so may I open the floor to individuals who would like to ask questions? May you raise your hands and then I'll recognize you. Dr. Kamrul from UK, you please go ahead, unmute yourself and speak.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Please go ahead.
Brother Latif, can you hear me?
Yeah, very loud.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, probably third lecture by Yusuf Kara today, and again some of the science and how Risalah integrated this science with theology and other parts of enlightenment idea at that time, European Renaissance time. How did it happen and the implication? First, I would like to give you some sort of not misconception, but you got some not correct understanding about it. When you ask Risalah or any topic somebody is discussing from Risalah, you always not find the pages like other books. Okay, these pages discuss about Iman, these pages discuss about science, these pages discuss about, not like that. So sometimes when Yusuf Kara is giving the presentation, that what is called the expertise or that kind of training the Risalah An Nur expert got, they collected all this information which is throughout the book of Risalah An Nur, and then they collected and compiled it in a integrated form. So not always to give the reference from this page to that page. That's I need to clarify everybody, because many people ask me, even from the last lecture, which parts, which pages of Risalah discuss this, I can't find it. So just keep in mind. The question I'd like to ask to Yusuf Kara, and it's a very important question, that is, people in many parts of the world probably misunderstand when Ustad Imam Badiuzzaman Nursi integrated this Islamic practice with traditional practice and the Sufism, with modern science, with Enlightenment idea, and with many other branches and like many other idea, secularism, atheism. What he did, he accepted Sufism, or he accepted some form of Sufism, which they cannot accept, or they think the Sufism totally is outside Islam or outside the true and real Islam. And that's why many people all over the world call him Nursi is a Sufi. Probably they didn't understand it, or they did not read Risalah An Nur. So this question, can you clarify? He was not a Sufi in terms of what we call Sufi, but in spiritual combination and spiritual integration he did was necessary, important, and contemporary, and even important for now. But he was not necessarily a Sufi in terms of what we call Sufi nowadays. So I just need to clarify or need to answer from you, because many misunderstandings happened and it's still there. That he was a Sufi, he accepted many Sufi thoughts, he accepted Jalaluddin Rumi, blah, 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 blah. So if you clarify this point, I think it will be very good for us as an audience from Bangladeshi community. Thank you. Thank you again, Yusuf Kara and Dr. Iqbal as well for their thoughts.
Thank you, Dr. Kamrul. Brother Yusuf Kara, please.
Okay, thank you very much, first of all, to our discussants for the kind contributions and summing up. Indeed, what our discussant mentioned is very important, to have a philosophy of education from the point of view of Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi, who was an educationist, an integrated educationist, integrating Quran and science and human nature and social sciences as well. Redescribing the human being with its potentials and weaknesses and character, and merging it with Iman, and then talking and the verses of the Quran with the verses of the nature and combining them. It's indeed a reading of from, as we call it, multidisciplinary, isn't it? So all the corners are there. There is Iman, there is Quran, there is universe, there is human being. It's a comprehensive and integrated reading and study. So this should be indeed academically studied and approached, and we should we should take some methodologies, inshallah, from it, and we should, inshallah, implement it in our classes. Thank you very much for that contribution. And pertaining to the question of Dr. Kamrul, first of all, regarding, as we are referring to, yes, I am giving you a main reference for each week, and at the same time, I'm referring to various parts of the Risalah An Nur, because that is because of the nature of Risalah An Nur itself. Risalah An Nur is not, how to say, too academically, compartmented book. Unlike our academic books that we have all one chapter here and second chapter, and they're all different chapters. Risalah An Nur is not similar to that. Risalah An Nur actually follows the methodology of Quran. Quran is also like that. There is no chapter on Iman, chapter on Akhirah, chapter on Salah, and chapter on this, chapter on that. There is no chapter of the stories of the Prophet, chapter on the other one, chapter on this. There is the chapter of Al-Baqarah, and you see so many things inside. You go to the next chapter and you see this everything again inside. So this is a methodology of Quran, and Imam Badiuzzaman talks about this. It is because, you know, like we are not, unfortunately, the modern world has made human beings, you know, very much robotic and compartmented. But we are an integrative being. We cannot be logical always. We cannot be emotional always. We cannot be looking from one perspective always. We have always, like, our heart means change. You know, we always need something and something. Like, for example, when you are eating, in one meal, do you eat soup, and in the next one, do you eat rice? In the third one, do you eat something else? Or every meal you are eating all of them together? So Quran's methodology, and Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi's methodology in following the Quran is like that. So he's dealing with, you know, he's feeding the heart and mind and emotions and subtle feelings when he's discussing. Okay, very soon. When he's discussing anything. So that's why we, you know, it's inevitable to refer from different parts of Risalah An Nur. But when you read the Risalah An Nur, you see that Imam Badiuzzaman uses the same methodology of referring to the nature and other things. When you get that, you know, feeling, when you get that understanding, and at that point you will be very much able to, you know, have a good comment on it, inshallah. This is for everyone. And secondly, you're welcome. And secondly, pertaining to the last question of Sufism, of course, Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi is not a Sufi. Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi, I mean, follows the Quran. Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi does not implement Sufism in Risalah An Nur, does not implement others in Risalah An Nur, implements the Quran only. He took the Quran as a guidance, as a roadmap only. Whatever he says is from the Quran. It happens to be in the hands of Sufism. It happens to be in the hands of madrasa. It happens to be in the schools also, modern schools as well. So what Imam Badiuzzaman does is an interpretation of you know, everything together from the point of view of the Quran. So we can never say that he's a Sufi. You see, he's using Sufi ways of doing things. That is Islamic way of doing things. That's Quranic way of doing things. How we can label it as a madrasa way of, Sufi way of, or modern you know, scientific way of doing it? He is approaching everything from a creational and from a revelational perspective. So any kind of you know, labeling, or not labeling, I mean, any kind of definition, certain definition, you know, local definition will be incomplete when it comes to Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi, and he does not imitate. Sorry, he does not imitate by default any path. He doesn't do that. But of course, he sees the beauties of those people. He commemorates. He gives their names. He says Abdul Qadir Jailani, Imam Rabbani, Mawlana Jalaluddin Rumi, and they are great people. Indeed, they have, because of their iman in Allah, they have excelled because of their, you know, characters, and because of their everything. So these people, of course, they are some pillars of Islam, some important personalities of Islam, and they had to be given the credit and attribute, and they have to be mentioned and benefited. So this is all I have to say, inshallah.
Thank you, Brother Yusuf. We will have one more last question. If there anyone who would like to ask any question or has any point to raise, please raise your hand and then I'll recognize you. Mr. Nazmul Haq, please go ahead. And that would be the last question or comment for tonight. Mr. Nazmul Haq.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Please proceed.
Yeah, we know all signs is appear in Quran, but Muslim community losing their, why Muslim community losing their power day by day? It's my question.
Okay. Why the Muslim community is losing their power day by day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are clear, right? The question?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Is
Okay.
always because is always the cause of distance, the cause of losing our power is always and has always been because of distancing ourselves from the Quran. Distancing ourselves from the Quran, or having a shallow understanding of Quran, having a local understanding of Quran, and not, diagnosing the condition, the contemporary condition, and referring to the Quran and compiling our remedies and confronting the condition. And because of that, we need the scholars. On the first week, I think I mentioned this, similitude. I said Quran, Imam Badiuzzaman says Quran is a pharmacy. And then from that sentence, I'm extracting, the rest. I say that then the scholars, ulama, they are the doctors, people, they are the sick, right? And every time there are different sicknesses. So we have to listen to those scholars, indeed. And there should be a shura, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ. There should be a shura, consultation between Muslims, between communities, between ulama. Once they have the discussion, for example, the opinions of Imam Badiuzzaman, I'm right now sharing with you my respected scholars, doctors, professors. There are so many valuable and important people in front of me right now. Right now, this is a majlis of shura. This is a platform of shura. This is not just academic exercise, isn't it? Indeed, we are discussing on this, right at this platform, we are discussing the way forward. Then I'm sharing with you the ideas of Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi, right? So once we do, and then you share ideas of some other scholars, etc. Others people share others. And then we come to the conclusion, it's not my way, your way, my alim, your alim, my ustaz, your ustaz. We should not have that type of things. We have ikhlas, sincerity. If we have ikhlas, sincerity, then ikhlas, Imam Badiuzzaman Said Nursi says, ikhlas, sincerity requires someone to benefit from anyone at any time. It's not, no, from my country, no, from my alim, no, from my way. No, let anyone benefit from wherever and whenever and whomever. So
Okay.
that's why, that's why, inshallah, this kind of discussions are important, and to diagnose our problems and our conditions, and to look ahead, inshallah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yusuf Kara. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of our session this evening. Before we end, let me remind you again, please register your attendance via the Google form in the group, since certificate will be given later. And please join us again next week, inshallah, and invite your friends and family to join us in this holy initiative. It has been an immense pleasure to have you all. Jazakumullah khairan to our speaker and discussant, and all of you who have spent your valuable time with us this evening. We meet again, inshallah, next Friday. Till then, ma'asalama. May Allah protect us all from this pandemic. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-barasi wal jununi wal jizami wa min sayyi al-asqam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.